another exciting edition of Convention Confessional. I am your host, Katy Hunt, and what we do here is we share stories about past convention life and horror stories. Some of them are funny, some of them are sad, some of them are weird as hell, some of them are questionable, and some of them I don't think anybody would believe unless you actually heard more than one person telling it. And, well, today I've got some more stories to share with you, and with me today is the wonderful Michael Lee. Hi, Michael, how are you?
Lovely, how are you?
Oh, living that life.
Living the COVID life.
That's exactly it. Like, that's all we can do right now. All
Cool.
right, well, I was told by Doug, who was on here a couple weeks ago, that you might have a story or two to tell me about some things that have happened in your life. If you
Certainly. Little background for me, I am the technical operations manager for Anime Boston. So a good portion of my stories anchor around the weird backstage things that happen that hopefully no one else ever notices.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of my job, is to make sure the weird stuff carries through and no one is the wiser.
You're a ninja.
I wouldn't go that far.
You're a ninja.
I have a great team that play that role
ninja.
much better than I do.
It is quite the team too. Like, if anybody's ever been backstage for Masquerade or anything before, it's funny. Like, you go up and you have like your booth in the back that you sit at with a few people, and then you go backstage and you exit off. And when you exit off, it's literally like an entire like Shield production.
Well, and that's only the auditorium, the main events room where we do the Masquerade and where we do chess and all the rest of those is one small piece of actually what we do. For Anime Boston in particular, I have about almost 130 volunteers.
Wow.
That report to me and play that game. So while there are a lot of interpersonal things, I'm going to try and keep it happy and fun and not disparage anybody.
Nice. That's the
So
journey
one of the
you
more
wish to go on. I accept that.
one of the fun, interesting things. 2010 was the year that we had the Video Game Orchestra concert. I don't know if you were there and saw that or not.
Yeah, I saw parts of that. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was probably the largest single event we've ever tried to do at Anime Boston. We had a 30-piece orchestra, 40-voice choir, and at the same time, what was kind of anchored around all of that, that kind of instituted that, was we also had the opportunity to have Nobuo, and I'm going to butcher his last name, from Final Fantasy, one of the composers from Final Fantasy.
Yes.
To come as a guest, but he could not be a musical guest because of the interactions with the Final Fantasy concerts and all the rest of that stuff. But if it came out that he just happened to play an encore at the show, then it wouldn't break any rules.
No, it's just he's here. I mean,
just because he showed up and just wanted to perform with the orchestra, it's not that. just because it's there,
right?
So we
wow, how weird! I just walked into this room and there's a whole orchestra here. I mean, I might as well.
And we just happened to have this 400-pound B3 organ sitting on stage right with everybody else that's hasn't been played at all during the entire concert.
How weird.
How weird. But that was one of the more exciting, like the run up to that and the lead up to that, in our tiptoeing around all of the official announcements and communications and everything around that. And then I think everybody in the audience was waiting for the "and one more thing" moment to happen.
Sure.
And then we got to the end, and then he walks out, and the entire place just lights up. It was a truly, truly amazing experience to watch.
That's
but
awesome.
Knowing all of the backstage shenanigans, and wait, I don't know if you're familiar at all with music instruments and what a Hammond B3 is, but it's this ancient antique organ, stage organ that they used in the Doors. The Doors toured with one.
Yep.
And yeah, those are fun to find in good working order in the Bay Area.
Hard.
Or not Bay Area, in Boston. But my backline guy was like, "You want what?" And I was like, "Yeah."
I'm
He's
sorry.
like, "You know how big that is, and you want to put it how high up on the stage?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll take care of it. It'll be a thing."
You heard me.
But yeah, the audience response from that was worth all of the shenaniganry.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. So
yeah.
From what I heard though, I mean, speaking of main events, something about rain.
So that was 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've seen the T-shirts that most of my team run around in the show, the Tactical Umbrella Squad.
Okay.
Have you seen those at
I
all?
think now that you've mentioned it, I've seen one. Yes.
Yes. They're generally black T-shirts, and they're branded Anime Boston, and it's an inside joke amongst my team.
Mm-hmm.
So 2007, long time ago, was the first year that Anime Boston had reached a point where we had started to do rigging in the ceiling and flying screens and flying sound systems and doing all of the rest of those kind of fun things, which technically is an entirely new level of intricacies. Now it's old hat. We've been doing it for a long time. But that year in 2007 was the first year that we did it for reals.
Wow.
And over the course of, and for those of you that don't know, at that point we were loading in on Thursday before the show. Thursday morning is all spent with all the logistics and starting to get motors hung and truss floating and all the rest of this stuff. And the show's going just like it should be. I've got one of my best friends is in the auditorium managing that part of the load in, and we get to probably just before lunch. They're at hanging the last point, and at that point it was only like 12 or 13 motors in the air. Now we're between both halls, we're about 60, which is insane to think about. But
Yeah, it really
so
is.
as it's going, and the way it happens is the normal lift, the normal man lift that they're using, which is a 60-foot, it has a boom lift that can go up to 60 feet. The normal one that the rigger's using was parked over at the BCEC, and they had substituted another one from a local vendor. And the gentleman who was in the lift, who's a very good rigger and has become a good friend, it was a new lift to him. And in part of it, there's the control panel, and then there's this little bar that sticks up about 6 feet to stop you from accidentally running into something and then jostling the controls.
Sure.
Well, his other lift didn't have that.
Oh no.
So as he was going, he reached a point and he forgot about that little 6-inch rise in the steel handlebar. And it just happened to intersect with a very large 2-inch sprinkler pipe.
Oh no.
That was, if you're not familiar, pipes are generally in 21-foot lengths.
Yep.
So this was a 20-foot lever.
Oh no.
That he lifted just a little bit, that then broke the pipe joint further down where the two pieces of pipe were linked. And then the water started coming down. At that point, Jared, my good friend, radios over something to the tune of, "Mike, it's raining in main events." And I ask for a confirmation, and then there is a confirmation from Jared, and then at that point there is a call from me over radio that is something to the tune of, anybody who can hear me, report to main events right now.
Oh no.
Which, you've worked with me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I generally don't make statements like that.
No, you don't.
You don't ring that bell, because that bell can't be unrung.
Right.
And so the majority of my team that's there rolls in within 45 seconds, and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
scattered all over the building.
Sure.
Because this is they're on the last stage before everything starts to fly up, so all the lights are in place, all the audio's starting to be laid out, the stage is in place, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
and now there is this torrent of water coming down.
Oh no.
So we quickly push all of the equipment, get all of the equipment cleared out, get the floor, get the stage, it was on wheels at that point, get the stage pushed out of the way, get all the truss tied back and everything. And the poor stagehands are looking at it coming in and like, this isn't supposed to happen.
No.
And then it continues to pour. We get the building engineers show up, and the housekeeping people come in, and the water continues to fall out of the ceiling. Well, normally you would think there's a water shutoff that you
Sure.
can get to, right? Well, the Heinz was built in the mid 70s.
Mm-hmm.
They had never exercised the valve for the sprinkler shutoff.
Of course not. Why would they have? That's silly.
And they had never exercised the valve that was the main water shutoff for the building.
No.
They had never exercised the valve at the curb.
Where was the shutoff for this water?
It was actually the municipal shutoff further upstream for them to shut that off, let the water pressure die down, and then they could go up and patch, and this is now 60 feet in the air, patch the pipe. Meanwhile, all of this is happening, like, it's our auditorium. This is main event, or opening ceremonies is 10 a.m. on Friday morning. Like,
right.
that is a thing that cannot change.
Nope.
And so I've got the building management and our event coordinator, Katy at the time. They're all trying to, everyone is like, this is something we've never dealt with. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. And what can we do? And I was like, and the rigging supervisor at the time, who's now a very good friend of mine, mostly because of the outcome of this particular event, I was like, all right, whenever this gets done, I have to have this room ready for opening ceremonies tomorrow morning. I don't care what it takes. And everyone was there. They were like, we'll do whatever we need to do. The show must go on. And we got, I think the water finally shut off sometime around 5 o'clock at night.
So it just poured till 5 o'clock at night, basically.
There is video of, so you know the main hallway that is now where we do bag checks and all the rest of that stuff.
Yep.
There was water pouring out of the light fixtures.
Oh no! Oh no!
So,
oh no!
Yeah, that all of that is happening, and we finally get the water shut off. The crew comes back from a meal, and they're like, "All right, here we go. Head down." I think they worked till 1 or 2 in the morning to get the room built and the chairs set and all of the rest of those things. And then they were done by 2. My team got about 4 hours of sleep, came in, rehearsed opening ceremonies, and no one knew the wiser.
Yeah, no, I mean, I went to 2007, and you would have never known that there was a small waterfall problem.
It was, I've got some pictures that I'm not allowed to have. It was a little more than a small waterfall.
I was being generous.
Oh, and the other thing is they had never flushed this pipe system.
Oh, stop. No.
Yeah, I didn't know water could be black.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, since it hadn't ever been touched probably since the 70s.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and this is a sprinkler pipe. It's a dead end. It doesn't flow. It's in just for everybody's interest. It's not the same water system it does the water fountains in the bathrooms and
Right.
all of the rest of that. It's a completely different system.
Oh man, could you imagine
But
like just not like the waterfall situation, but like being in a fire situation and just black water going everywhere to
I think at that point you're less worried about the black water and more worried about the fire.
One would hope.
One would hope.
One would hope. Wow.
Yeah, no, that was, and so the next year I did a commemorative T-shirt in 2008, and that is the Tactical Umbrella Squad, which is what the technical department kind of has adopted as its logo, and now it's a big deal. I have either a local or friend artist, and they do the art, and it's a custom art, generally anchored around our theme for a given year. Sure.
That's awesome.
That becomes my gift to the team at the end of the show.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Wow.
Yeah, another you don't know this happened story was probably 2009, maybe 2010. Saturday morning. So I go in, my normal pattern Saturday morning is I'll go in at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning and get my team spun up and watch the convention come to life, which is if you are ever up that early and you have the ability to physically feel a convention come to life, it is probably one of the most emotional experiences I've ever had. But one day, it was Saturday morning, so it was probably before registration opened. I knew that much. I was walking down that main hall, and the treasurer of the organization at the time comes out and goes, "Mike, we've got a problem." And like, I'm just walking out to like watch the flood of nerds come in through the front door. Like it's, right. I'm like, what is it? What happened? And he's like, we can't get into the safe that has all of the registration money in it for all of the change for registration that's supposed to open.
Oh no.
And at that point we were using like a Home Depot safe. For those of you that don't know, conventions run on shoestrings and baling wire. And it was this concrete safe, and the batteries that died in it or whatever. Anybody who's ever dealt with one of those things, they're evil. And so my treasurer, who I love him to death at the time, he was like, I have no idea how to deal with this. This is beyond my capability to deal with. And so I'm like, okay, fine, problem. Let's find a solution. I continue. In my head, I go through all right, I'm in Boston. The Boston Police Department, I'm sure, have dealt with safes that they can't open before.
Right.
Let's start there. So I start calling friends, and one of my greatest strengths is the contact list in my phone book. I eventually find somebody who's a friend of a friend of a friend who's a dispatcher in Boston for Boston PD, and they set me up with a company, and I was like, this is the weirdest question you'll ever had. I need a safe cracker. Because you don't just go to the yellow pages and look.
No, there isn't like this stuff like I break into safes for a living. It's like, oh
yeah, they don't advertise those things. So I get through it. I find a guy that's on call that is recognized, licensed, and bonded in the city of Boston in the state of Massachusetts. So it
doesn't have an ankle bracelet.
Yeah, nobody with an ankle bracelet. Get him in, and he looks at this safe. And he's like, okay, do you need it to work after I'm done with it? Me and a couple other the people that are there, and we're like, no, we need the money that's inside of it so we can go get, like, eventually we had found enough cash to go open registration while this is happening, because it's now 10 or 11 o'clock by the time I finally get the guy in. And he's like, okay, it's not going to be in one piece when I'm done. And about 15 minutes later, he basically cuts the top of the safe open, pries the door open, and then he's like, all right, here's my bill.
Hang on, let me just reach into the safe.
Yeah, reach into the safe. Here's the money.
Yeah. Hang on. Here you go.
After that, we got his card, and now we rent safes from his company for the express purpose of the convention.
Hey.
Lessons learned.
Pretty much. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Home Depot safes. I had one, and I ended up, like, it wasn't like one of the big ones. It was like one of those little, like, kind of fireboxy ones.
Yep.
And we ended up, I had to get a car registration out of it from my mom's house. She goes, well, that thing hasn't opened in years. I'm like, challenge accepted. Took a flathead screwdriver and a mallet and just wailed it open. I was like, yeah.
Fire safes are not secure. Like, no. They are literally a plastic or a metalish sheet and filled with concrete.
Yep.
So
much. Yep. Wow.
They are not a thing to really keep people out. They deter people. But I wasn't about to be seen cranking in on a safe in the middle of the convention floor.
just in the corner, like, bam, bam. Kind of like an Excalibur thing. Like, he who gets this safe open gets Anime Boston registration for life.
Yeah.
Excalibur it the entire day.
That was, yeah. The little things, and in reality, it's one of the things I love about Anime Boston and the team that is there is no one, maybe registration opened a little bit late, but no one knew all of this. No one in the rest of the convention knew this was happening. Just this little team that got together to make the project, make the problem go away.
Yeah, no, I mean, I said, like, I've been to Anime Boston since 2004. I wanted to go to 2003, but I was in a show at the high school, ran the same weekend, so I couldn't go to the very first Anime Boston.
Well, odds are you couldn't have gotten in anyway, so.
Right. I mean, if I had gotten there, it would have been like, nope. But I mean, of all the years that I went, there was only, like, probably 1 year where it was, like, a very evident problem. I think you know what I'm referring to.
Oh, yeah, 2008, LineCon.
Yes, LineCon, yes. I mean, they said that's the most infamous thing at Anime Boston, because otherwise you would never know. Like, you walk through that convention and everything seems, like, smooth as hell, honestly. Like, and he said even working there now, it's like I'm working behind the scenes with the cosplay staff and the masquerade staff. And I mean, we have our hiccups here and there, but I mean, we run a smooth show, like, with the help of your tech staff, obviously, because we would be nothing without them. Honestly, like, would be nothing without them.
Well, and there's one thing that my team is very aware of is the fact that the show starts when the show is supposed to start. I don't think in the main events rooms, anyways, in the large events rooms, in Auditorium, Hall D, in the ballroom, if the show starts at 7 o'clock, it's going to start at 7 o'clock. There's none of this shenaniganry that other events potentially have of the show not starting when it's supposed to.
Right. It is. It's like, it's a very well-oiled machine in there. But yeah, no, it's just, yeah, like I said, like, you would just be, I feel like as a team, like Anime Boston in general, we just make it so it's like you walk through there as like a person just going to the convention, you'd be like, wow, like, everything's starting, and wow, it doesn't really seem like there's that much, like, you know, nothing's really going on, and behind the scenes we're just like, okay, put that fire out, patch up that pipe that's pissing out black water.
Yeah.
Where did the registration forms go?
And in reality, like, I love Anime Boston. I love the attendees and the community that we have there. But you would never really know that there's I think we're over 500 volunteers putting that show together.
Yeah. I've been in the room. I've been in there at the Thursday meeting.
The Thursday.
Standing room only. Hands.
Yeah. The one... And even at that point, that's not all of the staff.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Thursday, we have an all-hands staff meeting Thursday night after almost everybody is done and the show is built, but the guest relations department isn't there, registration isn't there. Some of my tech staff are still working at that point. Like, and for those of you that know, we hold the all hands meeting in the ballroom C up in the Hines, and that room seats almost 900 people. So it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But one of my most, so 2008 LineCon, everyone from the public knows what happened there.
Yep.
Giant lines, all the rest of that, which in our defense, in our statement after the fact, we said we will fix this. And since then, we have never had a problem.
Never. No, not once. No, you guys showed up after it. I mean, like I said, it was one of those situations where it was out of your control. You know, it wasn't.
Well,
it wasn't.
I won't disparage other people's. It was a mistake that we had made, and we owned it, and we fixed it. But meanwhile, Friday morning, during all of that, Friday afternoon, we had the Pillows playing upstairs.
Right.
So we had, and that was a big deal concert for us. That was our first really big rock act that we had. And all of our security staff were managing the massive line, and I've got a rock show happening upstairs. Yeah, that was fun. That was a project to get through, and many memories were made at that point. But one of my most treasured memories from that year is operationally, as the exec board, during the show, every day we have a board meeting. Mm-hmm. More just to see what happened, to see what's coming, and what challenges we might have in the next 12 to 24 hours. And it's really just for us as leaders of the event to make sure we're all on the same page moving forward. Well, LineCon happened, and registration finally clears the line at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. We still have to have this meeting. So instead of having it on the high Crystal Tower, sipping champagne and drinking whiskey, which we've never done, but we actually, as a board, like our chairwoman, Andrea at the time, was nose down in registration. She was down there trying her best to make sure it was going right. So we had our executive meeting in registration, filling con bags. The entire senior leadership of the convention sitting around a table talking about what happened, what's next, filling con bags for the next day.
It's awesome.
It's one of the more pleasant memories I have from that.
Yeah. No, 2008, excuse me, despite, all of that, it was kind of, like I said, I think it was kind of funny as a person going to it, because I went on Thursday. I've always been a go on Thursday and get my badge ahead of time person, and Thursday night, it wasn't a problem. We waited a little bit, but it wasn't as, big as the Friday that everybody waited in, obviously. And I just remember I had my badge, and my friend had his badge, and we went as Trunks and Piccolo. Mm-hmm. And I made a whole Piccolo costume for him. And because people were lined up and stuck in line, it was almost like you were walking a red carpet at a big event. Because he'd be walking along and people would just be like, wait, stop, picture! So it's just this sea of cameras going off. And it's just to me, it was one of those moments where I'm honestly, I feel it's a really neat costume, but if people hadn't been stuck here, I don't think as many people would have seen it. So there's the positives that come out of it too, you know?
Oh yeah.
And he definitely deserved it. He looked amazing in that costume. It was my friend Rise is tall, he's 6'4", dressed up like a Namek with the full on arm pads and everything. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
That's some of the fun stuff that happens at the show.
Yeah, and it's just one of those situations. And we get upstairs, and it's more clear upstairs because the line's all downstairs, and people are just "Holy crap!"
Yeah, if you were upstairs, you didn't know anything was happening.
Yeah, it was a whole different world. It was. It's so funny, and that's kind of the Hines too. It's the different levels that you go on in that convention center. It's kind of a whole different experience for Anime Boston. you know, like everything's registration and like business downstairs in the dealer's room, and then you head up one more floor and suddenly it's like entertainment. and then upstairs, the third floor. I don't even really know what's on the third floor anymore. Like it's like art show and panels.
No,
right?
video games is up there.
Right. Right.
We have some of our panel rooms. The video game, I'm sure Patrick will be very mad at you for not realizing his room is up there.
Okay, well, I never make it to the third floor. Very rarely.
I very rarely make it up there too, which is terrible. But I have people to deal with that.
Awesome. No. Well, Michael, thank you so much for, stopping by. I appreciate it. Like I said before, if there's anything you'd like to promote, now's the time to do it.
Well, I keep a fairly low profile, but keep Anime Boston in your thoughts, and hopefully next year we'll be back full force.
Yeah, honestly, like I really think next year's our year. It's gonna happen, guys. Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody, for listening. Michael, thanks again for showing up, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Take care.